Noted. And I call the member for Mayo.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Australia is a country of drought and flooding rains and sadly of bushfire, and a natural disaster is unfolding as we speak in here. And this is on the back of bushfires in many parts that are now flooding. And of course we've had a pandemic, and I know that my community, our thoughts are really with all those who are currently facing such disaster, and it brings home how much the rest of Australia helped my community when we were in the grips of bushfire. And these events have only strengthened the conviction and resolve of my community and many communities around the nation to demand urgent, sustained and consistent action to address climate change and to tackle emissions. The vacuum of meaningful, effective climate action policy continues to frustrate. Back in the previous parliament, I instigated the first Parliamentary Friends of Climate Action. My aim as a crossbench MP was to create a safe space, a neutral space, where all members could come and hear from experts. When the Parliament resumed, I worked with the member for Indi and the member for Warringah to start another group, and just last week, we hosted a forum on transport emissions. And we even offered members the chance to get up close and personal to a Mercedes electric vehicle. Transport is the third largest source of emissions in Australia, and emissions are rebounding back to pre-COVID levels as the restrictions are lifting. COVID has taught the world many things. One of them is that if there is sufficient urgency, we can deliver, such as the vaccine, and that happened in a year. COVID has taught us the importance of building sovereign capability. Australia needs to improve our ability to adapt and to respond rapidly to change and manufacture, and we need to do this on our own soil. One of the guest speakers at the Transport Forum was the Norwegian Ambassador to Australia, His Excellency Paul Larsen. 75% of new cars in Norway are electric vehicles, and this country of just 5 million people has more Teslas than any other nation except the United States. Now, Norway has a fraction of the landmass and road network, but they are similar to Australia in that they are a large producer and exporter of fossil fuels, namely oil and gas. But Norway sources almost 100% of its electricity from renewable hydro power, and they have embraced both a carrot and stick approach to reaching ambitious emissions targets. They embrace technology as well as tax and financial incentives to reach targets. When it comes to electric vehicles, they have been incentivising for the past decade. Mr Larsen said that people want to be green, but economic incentives are also important. Australia can introduce incentives. The federal government can offer tax credits for upfront EV purchases, remove the luxury car tax, which is obsolete in a nation that no longer manufactures its own vehicles. The government can offer grants and low-interest loans to roll out changing infrastructure. In my electorate, the local council has been working with Regional Development Australia, and we have had an electric highway linking Kangaroo Island to the Fleurieu and the hills, and that has been a huge reason for many people with an electric vehicle to come into my electorate and to come and have a holiday. Government can also change the fringe benefits tax to encourage the uptake of electric vehicles in corporate fleets to boost the flow of good quality power, good quality price EVs into the domestic market. Government can lead by example and buy their own fleet. But well, we're not doing any of that, are we? In fact, Victoria is introducing a road tax from the 1st of July, and my state of South Australia is looking on with the intention of doing the same. As Tim Washington, Chair of the Electric Vehicles Council of Australia, and another guest at our forum, said Australia isn't just lagging in the electric vehicle race, we're not even in the race. Elsewhere, nations are seeing the economic and employment opportunities that come from global energy transformation and looking to the manufacturing opportunities of electric vehicles. Australia could do the same. Australia should do the same. Until recently, Australia had a strong and proud tradition in automotive manufacturing, especially in my home state of South Australia. Holden, my dad worked at Mitsubishi for a very, very long time. The loss of automotive manufacturing jobs resulted in hundreds of direct and indirect job losses. And we should not accept the closure of traditional high-volume manufacturing as if it's the end of all vehicle manufacturing endeavours in Australia. The introduction of many new electric vehicle manufacturers across the globe demonstrates that there is enormous opportunity. We just need the will. We've built high-volume quality vehicles in the past, and we could now produce high-value, hyper-performance cars. There is a future in Australia with a renewed interest in Australian-based manufacturing to pool the experiences and capabilities and knowledge that still exists in our nation to build cars again. And we can also learn from the experience of global manufacturers. Our forum was a conversation starter, and it was really pleasing to see so many government members there. And I hope that we can move beyond a discussion and start mapping out an exciting future of what could be possible. Madam Speaker, tackling emissions from transport is just one way that our country must address our responsibilities and obligations to reduce the impact we have on the environment. Methane, while shorter lived than carbon dioxide, has a much greater impact. In Australia, agriculture is the main source of methane production, but to the credit of the agricultural sector, their total methane production has continued to decline. This is a consequence of a proactive sector which has actively endorsed policies leading to better management of livestock, manure and landfill. The sector has demonstrated that change is possible and that there is an appetite to investigate and adopt scientific research. Wouldn't that be exciting if we did that in here? One exciting and recent development in the sector is the production of seaweed supplements to feed cattle. And while seaweed supplements studies are not new, the longest field test undertaken to date uses a seaweed genus that contains, now hopefully I'll get this right, Broforum, which reduces the production of methane in cows, potentially reducing the total production of methane in livestock by 80%. That is huge. That is a game changer. To put this into perspective, Future Feed, which is a partnership between CSIRO, Meat and Livestock Australia and the James Cook University state, if 10% of the livestock producers add 1% of the seaweed meal to the daily feed intake of livestock, it is like removing 100 million cars off the road. The study found that there were no changes in meat taste and that over time the gut microbes became more efficient, suggesting lower feed supplementation may produce the same result given time for the animal's gut to adopt the new feeding regime. And while this study is undergoing field trials and early celebrations should be tempered, we should applaud the agricultural sector's commitment to engage and embrace scientific research to mitigate their environmental impact. Indeed, leaders have established forums and groups to provide a recognised voice for the sector, and one such organisation is Farmers for Climate Action, a movement of farmers, ag leaders and rural Australians collectively working together to be part of the change. Now, I've talked about the value of seaweed research, and I'm now going to talk about the value of seagrass. Again, you know, we're one huge, great big island. Let's do this. It's so exciting. And in particular, the value of seagrass and its role in blue carbon production, a concept that is attracting global attention and one that offers countries such as Australia with diverse coastlines the ability to really address our emissions. Blue carbon is a natural phenomenon of carbon capture and storage in our coastal ecosystems, including seagrass meadows, salt marshes and mangroves, and these ecosystems act as enormous carbon sinkers by accumulating and retaining carbon in the plants and soil at rates of up to 4 times as much carbon per area as land-based forests. And Australia has millions of hectares of these ecosystems along our glorious coastline, which is the 6th largest in the nation in South Australia. In the knowledge of how effective our coastal ecosystems are at capturing carbon storage, I think it's really, really important that we actually ask the Parliamentary Friends of Climate Action, all of the people who are members, to come along and hear about blue carbon. So we'll be doing something in August, and I'm very excited that a lovely young woman from my electorate called Michaela Swartz will be coming here. She is an expert in blue carbon, and she'll be coming here to teach us all about it and what wonderful opportunities this is for our nation. You know, we could do so much more, and we just sit back and we watch the rest of the world leap ahead day by day, and we are being left behind. And so I would urge every member to come along. I think you'll find it very valuable.